Hello and welcome to another knee-jerk reaction video review. That's right, I watch a movie and then I review it right afterwards, so it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Of course, I got some disclaimers. I do try not to give out spoilers. Sometimes I do. Like I said, I try not to, but when I'm talking about the movie and I'm really into it, I might let something slip. Like, oh my god, he was dead the whole time. But no, just be aware that I might do that. Also, this isn't quite a knee-jerk reaction video. You see, I work nights, and sometimes on my nights off, I can't sleep, so I'll pop a movie in or something. So I watched this movie at about 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock last night, and then from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, a.m., I mean, this movie just made me lay in bed and think. And then I got up, took a shower, and here I am. And it's hard, because like when you look at yourself in the mirror, everything is... I don't know, when you look in the video, it's like different than a mirror, so it's hard to like put your hands where you want to. Anyway, I'm all wet. I'm doing my video review, and today I'm reviewing a movie called Downsize. This is a movie that has Matt Damon. It's really, oh man, like I said, I watched this movie and it hit me in the feels so bad. I literally lay in bed. I was crying. I was like, God, this movie is just it. It may not strike a chord with you, but I'm at a point in my life where this meant something to me. And the whole story of this guy like paralleled the story of my life, except for the fact that I did not shrink down to 5 inches tall. But yeah, this is the movie. It was kind of billed as a comedy. When I saw it, I thought, oh, it's a comedy. And I love indie films because indie films don't follow any rules, and they're really good. So I popped this in. It's on Hulu, and I was expecting a lighthearted comedy. Now, there were some really funny moments in it, and they're the kind of funny moments that are really subtle, like when they showed this kid all grown up and they talked about his sexual history. Then they show him he's got like a big cold sore. It's like, it's just one of those things that just hits you like, ha, that's right. So anyway, yeah, this is about a guy. He and his wife decide to take up this new technology that shrinks people down to 5 inches tall. And because you're 5 inches tall, everything costs less. And they do explain that, like, everything, because it's small and it costs less, and you're eating less, I forget how much money they had, but it translated to like $12 million. They only had a couple $100,000. So they're like, yeah, you can shrink down and be set for life. You can live in a mansion. Everything is beautiful. They set up these... I got a cat running through here. They set up these tiny villages all over the place. Of course, they're like huge, they're acres and acres, and they got domes covering them and stuff, but they're tiny. Everything's tiny in it. And they talk about the point in the film. They did mention at one point that 3% of the population had downsized, and there's a lot of things that cropped up that they weren't expecting, like these third world regimes were downsizing dissidents and forcing people to downsize, and people who didn't know how to do it right, because one of the things they specify was, like, if you had fillings, you had to take your fillings out first. And they were saying, people were downsizing with their fillings in, and it caused their heads to explode. So, I mean, there was some abuse of this. And so this guy, he downsizes, he moves into this big, beautiful mansion, and basically, I'm trying not to give away spoilers here, but he has a change of life. There's something that changes his life, and he ends up helping this woman with an artificial leg who had become famous a couple years before because she had been forced to downsize, and the regime, I forget if it was Vietnam. Was it Vietnam? I think she was from Vietnam. It might have been, no, it was, I think. Anyway, the regime shrunk her down forcibly against her will, along with a whole bunch of other people, packed them in a box and shipped them to the U.S. And out of all the people in the box, she was the only one that survived. And in the process, she lost her leg. So, and this Matt Damon character, he was a physical therapist. So when he meets her, she's limping really bad. And he's like, well, your prosthetic is all messed up. And he doesn't understand why people are in this luxury village, and yet they can't get the medical care they want. They can't get her prosthetic fixed. They have to work like this. So he promises her that he can fix her leg, and she drags him off to where she lives. And he was really surprised because, like, on the wall of the community, it's, I don't know how to say it without giving any spoilers, but he's brought into this other world, and it's like, whether you're big or small, these worlds exist. And at first he's taken aback. He meets a woman who's dying of stomach cancer, and the woman that takes him there doesn't seem all too concerned about it, and that kind of baffles him, but it makes sense later on. And so he gets caught up in this world of that people don't know exists for the small people. And then he meets his upstairs neighbor, who's a self-proclaimed, and forgive me for swearing, but he's a self-proclaimed asshole. He says the world needs assholes. And when you watch how he works, you're like, well, yeah, because he can make things happen that normal people can't make happen. And between these characters, they end up meeting the man that invented the shrink potion, and they go to Norway and they see all these beautiful wonders of nature. They also see it from the point of view of being 5 inches tall. They get to the original colony. They call them colonies. And this colony was the first colony ever created for the small people. And it's very secret, very hidden. And they finally get there, and he finds out that the world's ending and these people plan on going underground. And they built this bunker, miles underground, and because they're small and they can sustain they thought they could sustain for like 8,000 years. And this guy's caught up, like, does he go underground with these people? Does he stay out? And then there's questions like, is it real? Is it, are they just a cult that's going underground? Or, is the world really in danger? And they do have like news reports that kind of support it, but like the asshole guy said, he's like, well, we don't really know, But it's just, he makes this decision, and he goes back, and he's like caught up in this world where this woman helps everybody, and because she's a maid, she takes old food and she takes old medicine and she takes it back to her village basically, and feeds people and gives them medication and tries to help them. And this really, really struck a chord, because it's like, this guy, he's a nice guy, and he gets drug into this world that he wouldn't have gone on his own. And I mean, that's the whole point. He wouldn't have gone there on his own. And at one point he's ranting like, all the wild coincidences that had to take place for him to end up in Norway with the inventor of the, making people small at the end of the world. And, he's like, this didn't happen. This is fate. This isn't something that happened by chance. And, he's surprised that the other people don't want to go down in the tunnel with him. And it's like, it really parallels my life, because I'm one of those people that gives till it hurts. And, this has even caused rifts in my family and stuff. And it's like, I was in the store once, and I'm behind somebody and they can't pay, and so like, here, let me swipe my card. Let me, you don't need to put nothing back. And I do things like that. I'm a giver, and I don't care. Well, I have this compassion I feel, and so when I'm watching him, I realize that the downsizing wasn't about people becoming small, because one of the things that's preached all through the movie is that when you downsize, you're helping save the environment because you have less pollution. At one point they bring out a bag of garbage and goes, "This is 8 years worth of garbage," and from this village of 36 people that are small, and it's touted as a big picture thing, big picture, and then you realize that he got into this because of the big picture, but then he cut out a little tiny piece of the big picture, and now he's looking at the small picture. He's looking at the world, not the whole world and the 7 billion people on it. He's looking at the 5 or 6 people around him that he can actually help, the people that he can bring food to. He downsized. He stopped looking at the big picture and started looking at the small picture. I'm like, oh God. And the reason this paralleled my life so much is because he wouldn't have done this on his own. He was dragged into this by this woman that was like, you're a nice man, you're going to help me with this. And he's just like, oh, okay. And it's like, that happened to me once. It's like, I keep saying like a lie, I realize that. But I met someone who like forced me to do stuff, and I liked that. I was like, oh, I can get into this, and I can help people, and I can do this and that. And when she left my life, I'm like, it stopped. I couldn't do it on my own. I need someone to tell me what to do and say, hey, you're doing this today, and you're doing, I think I'm more of a soldier. I'm not a leader. I'm a soldier. And I felt that, like, everything about this relationship between him and this woman it just hit home. And, for my part, the woman left my life, and then I was on my own again. I crashed. I was more depressed than I ever was. And I wanted to help people, and I'm trying to recover from some financial difficulties, and I just couldn't, and it hurts. And I'm watching this movie, and everything hit home. So it might not hit you the same way it hit me, but believe me about the message. It's not about shrinking people. It's about shrinking your view of the world and then doing what you can. And there's a scene at the end, and I'm not going to try and give too much away, but there's a scene where, he's fallen into this routine, and he helps this guy, he gives him a plate of food. And as he's leaving, he's walking out, he's got to do the next thing, and the horn's blowing, and people are waiting for him. And, he turns around, and, here's this guy, he's all alone eating his meal, and you can just feel, and I don't know, I've never been a big Matt Damon fan, but you just feel that, like, he turned around and saw this guy and was like, he saw the small picture. He saw one man. He didn't see 7 billion people. He wasn't doing this to help 7 billion people. He did this to help one man. And I think that's the whole message of this movie, was you downsize. And like I said, it just hit me. I was going to get up and do a review. I thought, oh, God, I probably look awful. And because I literally lay there, and I was tearing up, and I'm like, why can't I be that guy? And then I was like, well, she pushed him. She pulled him, and he fell backwards into that world. And, I was almost there. I almost had fallen backwards into that world, and I feel bad that I didn't stay there. I didn't keep seeing the small picture, and it tears at me. And so now I'm here doing a video review of a movie that told me what my life should be. But anyway, I don't know if it'll hit you the same way I did. It hit me, but it is an excellent movie. Everything about it, the special effects are pretty good. The message is pretty good. The acting is excellent. There's twists and turns that you would never expect. It's just kind of a neat movie. It's a unique concept. I know there's been movies before about people who shrunk down, but this is about how there was politics in it. People were fighting about, if they're shrunk down, they're ruining the economy, because, a store like, they mentioned Target by name, that it's like they're losing business, because instead of buying, $500 worth of furniture, you buy $5 worth of furniture, and it's like an inch tall. And, they're little tiny toy cars that they drive around in, and they're little tiny houses that took nothing to build. And, the way their money gets stretched, and they live in luxury, for pennies a day. It's kind of a neat concept, and it was presented in a neat way. And then, like I said, all these twists and turns, and beautiful boat. Who would not want to live on a boat like that? But I recommend it. I give it 2 tiny thumbs up, but 2 full-size thumbs up as well. It's called Downsizing. It stars Matt. Is it Matt Damon? I'm pretty sure it's Matt Damon. I might have that wrong. But it's on Hulu. I've seen previews for it before. It is it has its funny moments, and you're gonna get I laughed out loud a couple of times. But in the end, it was like a icicle on the heart for me. And it may not hit you the same way, but maybe you'll see it through my eyes, that yeah, even though he did that for the big picture, he's now looking at the small picture, and it wasn't just because he shrunk. But my name's Randy, also known as Starthinker. I have some books on Amazon. Please go ahead and buy them. But anyway, that's my knee-jerk reaction review of Downsizing on Hulu, starring a whole bunch of people. You'll recognize everybody, and I can't think of their names offhand, but everybody in it's like someone you're going to recognize. But they're all good actors. They all play their parts really well, and yeah, it really struck a chord with me. I'm going to highly recommend it. It may not strike the same chord with you, but it's, if nothing else, it was a good, fun movie to watch, and it's going to leave you thinking at the end. I don't care if you're like me or not, but it's going to leave you thinking at the end. So anyway, have a good night. I got to get to work. So have a good night, and like I said, heartily endorse Downsizing on Hulu. Watch it now.